T9C got the fucking juice.
Silver's the new gold. Chris is so fun.
T9C got the fucking juice.
Silver's the new gold. Chris is so fun.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. We got a really exciting episode today, man. The Chargers are 0-2, and there are many people who are surprised that they've gotten out to a slow start. They're trying to figure out why they are 0-2, but I think the answer is pretty obvious. I'm going to tell you guys why I'm not surprised they're 0-2. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense, man, it's a disaster. And somehow, some way, this defense was able to win the Steelers the game against the Browns on Monday night. But there's a lot of things wrong with the Steelers offense. The Falcons, they're 2-0 with Desmond Ridder as their starting quarterback. But is their way of winning sustainable with him at the helm? Clemson and Florida State are facing off in a battle for ACC supremacy. We could see Florida State retake the throne as the best team in the ACC, something that they haven't been in the last decade. Clemson, on the other hand, they're trying to remain the top dogs in the ACC, but a lot of people feel Florida State's going to win the game, but I don't think you should be overlooking Clemson. Dabo Swinney, he does a really good job at making sure that his team is ready to play in big games, and I think that Florida State could potentially be in for a dogfight against Clemson. And Oregon and Colorado is probably the game that everybody's going to be watching this weekend. You got Coach Prime and the Buffs who just find ways to keep on winning. It's like a Disney movie with Colorado. Every time you watch them play, it's always drama and entertainment, and some way, somehow, they always end up coming out on top. But are they going to be able to win against one of the best teams in all of college football, led by Bo Nix, who is as good as what Deion Sanders is? Two of the best quarterbacks in college football facing off two 3-0 teams. We're going to have one team walking away with an L and one team moving on to 4-0. And then lastly, Ohio State is going on the road against Notre Dame. And I know in the past, Notre Dame has struggled against elite teams in college football. But this year, I think Ohio State is going to be in for a dogfight when they go on the road to face the Fighting Irish. Before I get into everything that I got on deck for today's show, leave us a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We go live every day, Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you enjoy the podcast, listen to us on all podcasting platforms. Every video that's uploaded on the channel is available in audio format on all podcasting platforms: Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon. Wherever you get your podcast from, you can find the JT Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to support us, give us a 5-star review. We're trying to get to 100 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify before the end of this month. So go ahead, if you haven't already, get your phone and give us a 5-star review if you enjoy. Brandon Staley is the worst coach in the NFL right now. I don't think there's any other head coach who is bad. Let me start that over. Hey, let's run that back, producer. The Chargers have the worst head coach in the NFL, Brandon Staley. And they're 0-2 right now, and many people are scratching their heads trying to figure out why the Chargers are off to such a slow start. But I'm not surprised. And you really shouldn't be surprised that the Chargers don't have a win yet neither. You want to know why? Because Brandon Staley isn't a good head coach. I had the Chargers going 6-11 this year, and many people hit me up and said I was tripping. They were saying, JT, how can a team this talented win less than 9 games coaching? You remember when the Dallas Cowboys were underachieving with Super Bowl caliber rosters in the mid-2010s because of Jason Garrett, the master clapper? He was a bad head coach, and that's why Dallas kept on underperforming. And the Los Angeles Chargers, this is a roster that's more than capable of being able to win a Super Bowl. But the reason why you haven't came close to those expectations is because Brandon Staley isn't a good head coach to live up to having high expectations. People are trying to make so many excuses for Brandon Staley. I don't get why people continue to defend this dude so much. There's literally people out here that are trying to say that Justin Herbert is the reason for the Chargers' shortcoming. Are you blind? Do you watch these games? Justin Herbert is the reason why these fools even have a chance at being able to win these games, because the fucking defense can't get no stops. What you want Justin Herbert to do? Play quarterback and play every other position on defense? Brandon Staley is supposed to be a defensive-minded coach. Is the defense good? No. How is it Justin Herbert's fault that the Tennessee Titans put up 27 on their defense? Ryan Tannehill, the dude who is considered to be washed up, who threw 3 picks against New Orleans in week 1, shredded Brandon Staley's defense. He had 2 touchdowns, no picks, and Tennessee's offense was humming. They had 141 total yards rushing. This is one of the most talented defenses in the NFL that the Chargers have, but it's one of the most disappointing because of being poorly coached by Brandon Staley. Their next 3 games are against the Vikings, the Raiders, the Cowboys, and the Chiefs, and they're going to tell us a lot about how this season is going to transpire for the Chargers. But I think it's safe to say at this point, Brandon Staley is on his way out. The question is he going to be able to finish the season, or is he going to get let go before the season concludes? This defense is awful. And it doesn't take long to figure out if you have a good head coach or not. If you specialize in something, then that aspect of your team shouldn't be the worst part. The Chargers got Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, Derwin James, They got one of the most talented defenses in the National Football League, and yet they constantly underperform week after week. They got shredded by the Miami Dolphins, and they got shredded by the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans are not an explosive offense. You don't see Tennessee put up 27 points every day on a consistent basis. They look good because they were playing against a Brandon Staley coach defense. When you're poorly coached, you get poor results. The Chargers being 0-2 shouldn't shock you. And this team is very well on their way to imploding. It's not Justin Herbert's fault. Justin Herbert is keeping these guys in the games. Don't act like you haven't seen this story before, where the Chargers have had a super talented quarterback who underachieved because he was surrounded by bad coaching. We've seen this play out before with this Chargers franchise. This is a cheap organization that doesn't like to spend a lot of money on big name head coaching hires. Brandon Staley doesn't really have a lot of experience as a head coach. He only was the defensive coordinator of the Rams for one season. And we haven't seen an elite defense put on the field yet by Brandon Staley. They're getting shredded and carved up by every single opponent they face, and any team they play is able to do whatever the hell they want to do against that defense. This defense is way too damn talented to be playing at this poor of a level. Joey Bosa, before this season, said he really wants to win. It doesn't look like it. The defense plays terrible. The Chargers 0-2 start should not shock you because they are a poorly coached team with the worst head coach in the NFL. I don't care if they made it to the playoffs last year. Look at the quarterbacks that they played against last year. Most of those dudes were not good. Their best win was against the Dolphins. You got to stop making excuses for being a poorly coached football team if you're a fan of the Chargers. Justin Herbert and this offense are not the reason why you're 0-2. Anytime you're putting up damn near 24, 27 points per game, you should be able to have a winning record. But when you got an awful defense and an awful head coach, this is how you get put in these situations where your offense is balling, but it's not showing up in the win column. The Chargers are going to implode this year. This team won't make it to the playoffs, and they're going to be in the market for a new head coach, and their next head coach may be on the roster. That's a discussion for another day. The Steelers offense makes me hate being the Steelers fan at times. Despite beating the Browns on Monday Night Football 26-22, the offense was absolutely abysmal. Okay, and we got to talk about every single thing that's wrong with the Steelers offense right now because it's a crap show out there. All right. First of all, let's talk about the dude who's calling the plays, Matt Canada. This is the worst offensive coordinator that Mike Tomlin has ever had. Okay, and I didn't think Matt Canada could be any worse than Randy Fichtner. Bring back Todd Haley. I want Todd Haley back, but unfortunately, Big Ben ran him out of town. Maybe he can come back with Big Ben not being there anymore, but who knows? But Matt Canada sucks as an offensive coordinator. And y'all want to know a joke? Y'all want to know something funny? I saw Dan Orlovsky tweet out that Matt Canada isn't the problem with the offense. I don't know if he was trying to be sarcastic. I don't know if he was trying to be funny, but it looked like he was pretty serious to me. I don't know if Dan Orlovsky, his vision needs to be checked or something, but this play calling is trash, bruh. The jet sweep, the little motion that he does with the wide receivers doesn't fool anybody. It didn't fool anybody when he was coaching at LSU, and it's definitely not fooling any of these NFL defenses, man. If you're going to use motion, use creative kinds of motions like orbit motion. Have a running back line up at receiver and then motion into the backfield and motion out for a pass. Matt Canada, his offense is not creative, is not innovative, it's basic, stale, and it sucks. It freaking sucks. And Mike Tomlin The reason why he didn't part ways with Matt Canada is because he didn't want to negatively hinder Kenny Pickett's development. Because the majority of quarterbacks that end up being bust have to go through a lot of coaching changes. They have to go through constant new offensive coordinators, constant new head coaches. The best time to develop a young quarterback is when you can nail your head coaching hires and you can have stability on the coaching staff, because you can't expect a young quarterback to continue to develop at a successful rate if he has to learn a new system every single year. And Kenny Pickett going into year 2, having a new offensive coordinator, Mike Tomlin felt would have been a detriment to his development. But I don't think it would have been too much of a hindrance, because how worse can you be at calling plays than Matt Canada? I don't think it really would have made a difference if he stuck around or if you find anybody else. If you have a quarterback like Kenny Pickett, who isn't the most gifted, isn't the most talented, he's not somebody that's going to be able to elevate or overcome bad play calling like maybe guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes can. Kenny Pickett needs a solid play caller to be an effective quarterback. Matt Canada isn't an effective play caller. He's a terrible head coach, and he's a terrible offensive coordinator. I don't get why Matt Canada is still allowed to call plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. I know it's early into the season, and making drastic coaching changes, especially when it comes to your play caller early in the season, is something that can really alter the performance of your offense. But in this case, you really can't get any worse. This offense is terrible. Matt Canada is a big reason why the Steelers stink. It's not that this team is lacking in talent necessarily, but we are going to get into the poor offensive line play. This offensive line has played like shit for 2 weeks, man. This offensive line, the picket fence, was supposed to be the best offensive line that we had since 2018. This offensive line had so many big name additions, and yet none of those guys are doing anything impressive. I mean, we drafted a left tackle in the first round, and he's not even starting. What? What's the point of drafting Broderick Jones if we're not going to start the fool? When you draft a left tackle, a wide receiver, or cornerback, those are instant impact positions. Therefore, these are positions that you should get instant production from day one. And if you draft a guy who's not ready to play day one at these positions, then I think that tells you that they're not good. Why are you drafting a developmental left tackle in the first round? Any first round pick that you draft should be a day one starter for you unless it's a quarterback. I never heard of sitting a left tackle, wide receiver, or cornerback for a couple of weeks to let him get acclimated to the NFL game. I've never heard of that. This offensive line is terrible. When you got a franchise left tackle, he tremendously impacts your offense. Left tackles are one of the highest paid positions in the NFL for a reason. Therefore, Broderick Jones, his ass should be out there starting and helping improve a terrible offensive line. Chick-Shakur, oh my goodness. Awful. Like, this offensive line just plays terribly, man. I don't know what it is with the offensive line, but Mike Tomlin just can't get it right. He really can't. And Kenny Pickett, he doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. What was the problem with Kenny Pickett when he was coming out of Pitt? He was too easily scared out of the pocket. He will easily bail out of the pocket at the first sniff of pressure. He's doing the same thing this season. He doesn't look comfortable, and when he's not comfortable in the pocket and when there's guys in his face, he can become inaccurate. He becomes erratic. Kenny Pickett, he looked great in the preseason, but he's not looking good right now. Now, Kenny Pickett, he's not necessarily one of those quarterbacks that are going to impress you in the box score. Okay, he's one of those quarterbacks that just finds ways to win, and he plays his best football when it matters the most, and that's cool. But Kenny Pickett hasn't even played good in the fourth quarter of games. Against the 49ers, he didn't look good in the fourth quarter. He didn't look great in the fourth quarter against the Browns. If it wasn't for this defense being so damn great, the Steelers would be 0-2 right now. And this offense is severely lacking in explosiveness. And it's not the fact that they don't have explosive players. They just don't have a play caller that knows how to generate explosive plays. George Pickens is the only dude they know how to get the football to at wide receiver, and they barely know how to even do that right. I mean, George Pickens had a monstrous game against the Browns, but he could have an even better performance if the play calling was better. And then the run game, I mean, what can you expect out of Najee Harris, for those of you guys who view him as a bust, to do behind probably the worst run blocking NFL, the worst run blocking offensive line in the NFL for the last 2-3 years? There's nothing a running back can do if he doesn't have any running lanes to run through. The offensive line is responsible for creating holes in the run game for these running backs to run through. And Najee Harris, he's not as fast as Jaylen Warren, but he's a really good back. And if he gets good offensive line play, he can be as good as how he was his rookie season. Ever since his rookie season, he has been on a constant decline. And the reason for that is because the offensive line just seems to get worse every season. It's not an excuse for Najee Harris, the bad offensive line play. I mean, some running backs can do good with bad offensive line play, but at the end of the day, you still got to be able to create holes in the run lane, and this offensive line can't do that. The Steelers' offense is severely disappointing. They need a new offensive coordinator ASAP, and it's probably not going to come soon. Mike Tomlin already said they're not making no changes, but even he knows, like, things have to change. This offense is terrible. They may still be able to win 9-10 games because of how great this defense is, but this offense ain't it. Matt Canada sucks. Kenny Pickett ain't looking good. I mean, this team offensively is just a complete mess. Hell, you know what they say? Sometimes the best offense is a great defense. Pittsburgh proves that saying to be right. Let's move on to this. The Falcons are off to a really hot start. They're 2-0 right now. They're coming off wins against the Panthers, beating the Packers 25-24, coming from behind. And I'm really curious to see if the Falcons can continue the win with Desmond Ridder at the helm at quarterback. Now, Desmond Ridder, he's in his second season as quarterback in the NFL for the Falcons. And he didn't start last year until the near end of the season. And we didn't really know too much about what we can expect from him going into this season. Now, he has garnered a lot of comparisons to Alex Smith. Alex Smith is the definition of a great game manager. He takes care of the football. He made great decisions with the football late in games. And he also was somebody who didn't take a lot of shots down the field. And he was ultra conservative. And with Desmond Ridder, he kind of has a similar skill set to Alex Smith, but way more athletic. He was okay against the Carolina Panthers, against the Green Bay Packers. I don't think he was as good as what the box sheet may indicate. 19 of 27, 237 passing yards. He threw 1 touchdown, 1 pick, but he nearly threw 3 interceptions in this game. And Falcons fans will defend this and say, oh, we can't live off what ifs and coulda, shoulda, whatever. It's like the interceptions didn't happen, so it doesn't matter. Yes, it does matter. I mean, if you're nearly throwing 3 interceptions, that means that you're misreading defenses, you're not making good decisions with the football, and these are bad habits that carry over into the next game. So if Desmond Ridder nearly throws 3 interceptions in this game, making bad decisions, what makes you think that he won't do the same thing against the Detroit Lions or the Jacksonville Jaguars? Now, that doesn't mean that Desmond Ridder is going to play bad in all these games. I'm not saying that he is, but all I'm saying is that I think that some Falcons fans are being just a little bit too optimistic about Desmond Ridder just because they're 2-0. You see, it's easy to ignore problems and weaknesses when you're undefeated and you don't have a loss yet. Because most fans, when their team comes away with the win, They don't look at the win from all angles. They don't look at the good, bad, and the ugly. The only thing that most fans talk about when their team wins is the positive. But if we got to talk about the ugly is that, Desmond Ridder is okay at times. He was really good in the fourth quarter, but as far as how he has performed throughout this season, the Falcons could do better. Now, he's better than Marcus Mariota, but that's not saying much because what is Marcus Mariota right now? He's a backup. Desmond Ridder was better than a backup quarterback. Cool. But is he better than the other 31 NFL quarterbacks that he's starting along with? I don't know. And the Falcons are 2-0 right now, but the Green Bay Packers, they look like they can be a solid team, but the Panthers are 0-2. They've yet to win a game. And the schedule is about to get really tough for the Falcons. You're playing against the Lions, the Jaguars, the Texans, and the Commanders. Now, you're going to smash the Texans, okay? But the Lions, Jags, and the Commanders are all really solid teams. And the Lions and Jags have two really good quarterbacks. And you see Desmond Ridder, he's a solid quarterback if you are asking him not to do much. But what's going to happen when the Falcons get in games where the run game may not be as dominant and they got to throw the football 30, 40 times to win? Is Desmond Ridder capable of leading you to a win when you have to rely on him and his arm to win you the game 30 plus times throwing the football? The Falcons are a run-heavy team. They want to run the football. They want to take a lot of time off the clock and keep your defense on the field and tire them out with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. And that's a winning formula when you're able to go against teams that, don't really have great offenses. The Panthers and the Green Bay Packers. And the Falcons defense has looked better compared to how they have looked in the previous couple of seasons. But when you're looking at the bigger picture, for this team to be able to make it to the postseason, they need a little bit better out of Desmond Ridder. You see, Desmond Ridder, he won't win you games, but he won't lose you games neither. Now, he did play good in the fourth quarter. Okay, cool. But is he going to be able to continue to get away with having those 3 near interceptions? Those were nearly picked off. If those interceptions would have happened, we would have been looking at Desmond Ridder a lot differently. You see, we got to stop ignoring some of the weaknesses for the Falcons just because they got a lot of cool players that we really like to root for, such as Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. Just because they're good playmakers and they make things easier for Desmond Ridder doesn't mean that he's still going to be able to lead this team to the playoffs. So the Atlanta Falcons with Desmond Ridder, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep this up for too longer. They could win this division because this division isn't great and Baker Mayfield is balling right now, but Desmond Ridder, he doesn't really look all that fantastic to me, and that's cool. Falcons fans are going to say we don't need him to be fantastic, but excuse me, what's going to happen when you need him to be fantastic? Then what? You see, the problem is you don't need Desmond Ridder to be anything special right now. But what's going to happen when you need Desmond Ridder to step up and make the big throws in the fourth quarter to win you games against quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff? That's the thing with Falcons fans. Like, they keep saying we don't need Desmond Ridder to do too much, but what happens when you are? You're not going to be able to win every single game being able to only throw the football 24 times or less. There are going to be games when you're going to have to be able to win with Desmond Ridder airing the ball out. And I don't think the Falcons are capable of doing that. If the Falcons had a Dak Prescott or a Lamar Jackson at the helm at quarterback, they would have one of the best offenses in the NFL right now. This offense could be a lot better with Desmond Ridder not being a starting quarterback if they were able to find a suitable replacement that was a significant upgrade. Now, Desmond Ridder, I don't think he hinders the Falcons offense, but he doesn't make it better. There definitely are a lot better quarterbacks that you can find than Desmond Ridder, and he hasn't been anything special. If I had to grade Desmond Ridder on an A through F scale, I probably would give him like a C, maybe a C minus. I mean, he hasn't done anything crazy. He didn't even do anything great against the Carolina Panthers. The defense had a good game, and they had good, favorable field position for most of that matchup. And against the Packers, he was cool, but he had a lot of near mistakes. And that could have been a disastrous afternoon for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm just saying, like, we got to be a little bit more objective about Desmond Ridder, and I don't really think the Falcons, unless they can continue to run the football at the rate that they have, are going to be able to continue to win the way that they have unless Desmond Ridder can step up his play a little bit. I don't even think he's been a great game manager. I just think that the Falcons overall have just played some really good, complete, complementary games where the defense has showed up big and, you know, the run game has been there and Desmond Ridder has been able to make big throws when need be in certain moments of games. But asking if Desmond Ridder can continue to play consistent on a regular basis, I don't know, because he hasn't really looked that great, and even Alex Smith was a little bit better than this. I'm just saying, Alex Smith isn't the great comparison that a lot of people try to make it out to be. I think that having the Alex Smith in the year 2023 isn't really that much of a compliment when teams are trying to move on from quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins, who are top 12, top 13 quarterbacks in the league. Teams want elite quarterbacks. Teams want good quarterbacks. And if you got an Alex Smith, there's a reason why he got replaced by Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid didn't want him. Washington didn't want him. Even after that injury, he led them to the playoffs and won Comeback Player of the Year. Regarding everything that happened prior to that. So Desmond Ridder, man, I don't know about him, but I'm eager to see you guys' thoughts about this down in the comment section down below. We're about to move on to the college football portion of the show, but before we do, I'm finna get a sip of water. Make sure that you guys leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you are enjoying today's episode, leave us with a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Every episode of the podcast available on all audio platforms. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from, you can find the JT Sports Podcast. Okay. 88% of bettors have put their money on Florida State beating Clemson this weekend. Now, Florida State currently is a 2.5-point favorite heading into this big matchup against Clemson. And this is one of the biggest games of week 4 in college football, because this is the game to decide who is the top dog in the ACC, because many people prior to this season started have picked the Seminoles to win the ACC conference. But for Florida State to be the man, they got to beat the man. And they haven't beaten Clemson yet under Mike Norvell. Last year, when they played Clemson, it wasn't really close. But this year, the tables have really turned. And we saw what Florida State did to LSU in week 1. They pretty much body bagged them. They blew them out. It wasn't really close after halftime. Now, they nearly escaped Boston College, but maybe that was a look-ahead game. Maybe they just had their eyes set on Clemson and they overlooked Boston College. But for Florida State and the people that are picking Florida State to win this game, I would be extremely cautious. Because, you see, I don't think Florida State is the lock to win this game that people think they are. People think that it would be a surprise if Clemson wins this game, and it really wouldn't be. Honestly, you see, although Florida State is a more talented team than Clemson, one thing that they do best under Dabo Swinney is play with that underdog mentality. And you see, really early, before Clemson became the big name program that they are today, when they were coming up, when they didn't have any championships or Dabo Swinney didn't win any national championships and they were on the chase, he always embodied being the underdog. He always loved pushing the underdog mentality. That was his way of getting those Clemson players motivated for games. And he hasn't been able to do that in a very long time until really this year. And this is the perfect week for Dabo Swinney to really dig into that underdog personality and really try to get into that role of playing spoiler and exceeding expectations, because most people think that Florida State's going to beat Clemson, and this game possibly could get out of hand because Clemson, their offensive line doesn't really look great. We saw them get body bagged by Duke in week 1, who now apparently looks like a football school. So for Clemson, they got some severe problems offensively. You remember back in the days when Clemson used to be wide receiver U, they had Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams. They used to always have an NFL wide receiver, and they haven't had one since Justin Ross. They don't have any dynamic wide receivers who you really can look at and say, oh yeah, like this dude is always going to be that go-to guy for Cade Klubnik. FSU has a really good secondary, and they got a really good front seven. And if Clemson doesn't get good wide receiver play in this game, it could be a long afternoon for them. But the good thing is that LSU is able to get some big plays on this defense. And as long as this offensive line can give Cade Klubnik some time to throw, they could be in for a really big game. Possibly. Because Cade Klubnik, I think, is a pretty solid quarterback when he's on fire. If he can start the game out hot, I think that Clemson could have a pretty good day offensively. But Dabo Swinney, he really loves being the underdog. And I think that he's really going to be pushing that message all this week throughout practice heading up into this game. He's going to be saying, you know, like everybody seems to forget that we are the defending ACC champions, and everybody seems to just think that Florida State is about to win this thing and we're about to roll over just because we have a philosophy of not wanting to use the transfer portal. And, you know, we're about to go out here and show these people that we're Clemson football. Not only are we still the best team in the ACC and we're going nowhere, but we also are still a legitimate contender for the college football playoffs. You know, Clemson, I think that they should feel as hungry as ever heading into this matchup against Florida State. Dabo Swinney, he's going to have this team ready to play. I don't think this game is going to be a blowout. Yeah, Clemson may not be as good as what LSU is, but Florida State, anytime they play a team like Dabo Swinney, there's a possible chance that maybe they could end up having a little bit of a sloppy performance. It's been a long time since Florida State has been in a spotlight this where everybody has had their eyes on them and everybody has had nothing but good things to say about them. Yeah, they're locked in and they have looked good against LSU, but this is Clemson. They beat LSU last year and they lost to Clemson last year. And Clemson still does recruit at a pretty high level. They do have a good enough roster to beat Florida State. It's just that with everything Florida State has brought in from the transfer portal, they just look like they're going to overwhelm Clemson. But Dabo Swinney, I don't question if he's going to have this team ready to play this game. Now, I still like Florida State to win, but I don't think it's a full guaranteed. And if I had to give you guys my confidence level about Florida State's ability to win this game 1 through 5, I'd probably keep it at a 2 or 3. Probably a 3, because you see, I do think that Florida State is a better team, but I do think Clemson has a pretty good defense. And I think that Dabo Swinney is going to have this team playing at a really high level. They're going to be super motivated, and I don't think we're going to see the same Clemson in this game that we did against Duke. I think that Clemson is going to give Florida State a dogfight in this game. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, there's a lot of anticipation to see if Oregon can be the first team to end the Colorado and Deion Sanders hype train. And if you've been watching Colorado, this season has been like a damn movie. Deion Sanders, first of all, becomes the head coach of Colorado. Then they upset TCU week 1 after being 3 touchdown underdogs. And then they destroy Nebraska. And then they struggle against Colorado State, but still find a way to win. Shedeur Sanders engineers a 97, 98-yard drive to send the game to overtime, and they win it in double OT. And many people think that Oregon is going to be able to end this whole Deion Sanders and Colorado love fest. But I wouldn't be so sure about that. Okay? I mean, Colorado's season has been really magical. And offensively, this team has been a juggernaut. Their offensive line has been dog shit, but I mean, it doesn't matter when you got a quarterback as good as Deion Sanders and one of the best wide receiving cores in the Pac-12. Xavier Weaver, Jimmy Horn Jr., yeah, they are going to be without Travis Hunter, but they got plenty of weapons in the passing game. True freshman running back, Dylan Edwards. I don't think Colorado's going to struggle to have success offensively against Oregon, and that's something that people seem to overlook. People make it seem like the Pac-12 is this conference that has nothing but great defense. The best teams in the Pac-12 last season had some of the worst defenses in college football. Oregon, USC, Washington, and even this season still. Did y'all not see Oregon against Texas Tech? When Texas Tech was up on them and they had to come back from behind, their defense was awful. Texas Tech's offense was going crazy on Oregon's defense. So if Texas Tech is putting up 30 on Oregon, why can't Colorado put up 30 on Oregon? So Oregon, defensively, I don't think they're going to be slowing down Colorado's offense all that much. Now, they probably will be able to get after Shedeur, but the question really is going to be, how many points can Oregon put up on Colorado's defense? You see, Oregon's offense is one of the best in college football. They got a lot of speed. You got Bo Nix, one of the best quarterbacks in college football. And Colorado's defense, without, not having Travis Hunter there, I don't really know how great this secondary is going to be, especially when it comes to getting Oregon off the field in third down situations. They don't have a pass rush. The defensive line is non-existent. Not only can they not get after the quarterback, but they also can't stop the run. And Bucky Irving is one of my favorite running backs in college football, and I think he's going to have a monstrous performance. Now, Oregon is a 21-point favorite in this game, but I don't think they're going to steamroll Colorado. And in terms of them winning this game, I mean, honestly, I think it can go either way. You see, I think at this point, you can't continue to count out Colorado. You can't continue to call this team a fluke. All right? Now, they are going on the road, and they do have to win in Oregon. And it's really hard to win at Oregon. Oregon rarely loses. I think they lost for the first time in forever at home last year, if I'm not mistaken. But Colorado, people said they wouldn't be able to win on the road against TCU. Now, winning on the road in TCU is way different from trying to win on the road in the zoo. All right, I get that. But Oregon's defense is not great. It's not like Oregon has an elite defense that we know is going to be able to suffocate Colorado's offense. And as long as Colorado's offense can score points, they're going to be able to hang with Oregon in this game. And as long as Deion Sanders is healthy, they got a great chance at winning this game. You see, people think just because Colorado can't run the football, they're going to be unable to hang around with USC and Oregon because those teams are able to play complementary style football. But do y'all not see North Carolina? They're literally Drake May or nothing. Literally, Drake May is literally the whole entire offense. If it wasn't for Drake May, UNC probably would be 0-3, 1-2. They are not a good football team, but the fact that Drake May's such a great quarterback, they can just win saying, F it. Drake May just throw the football every play. And that's what Colorado can do with Deion Sanders. They got great play calling. They got a really fantastic offensive coordinator in Sean Lewis. And Deion Sanders is probably the second best quarterback in college football right now. Travis Hunter is a significant loss. But as long as Deion is there, going up against this Oregon defense, I think that Colorado has a very good chance at winning this game. You see, I get that a lot of factors favor Oregon. But you see, there's a reason why Colorado is 3-0 and they already are very well on their way to over exceeding their 3.5 over-under win total. Most people didn't even think that this team was going to be able to win more than 3 games. Hell, most people didn't even think this team was going to be bowl eligible. I've been probably one of the few people on this planet who really have been high on Colorado prior to the season starting. Again, even I'm a little shocked about how good they've looked. I didn't expect them to be this damn good on offense. Sheesh, this is one of the best offenses in college football. And yes, I know that Oregon's offense is really good, and Oregon, they're going to put up a lot of points also, but Deion Sanders and this Colorado team just have something magical about them. It's just something magical that anytime the game gets close, they just find a way to win. And I know that they're playing on the road, but I'm not too worried about it because they got Shedeur Sanders. One thing about it, you know Shedeur Sanders is going to show up and he's going to show out. He takes great care of the football. He makes fantastic decisions. He gets the ball out fast. He can extend plays. He can carry Colorado to a win in this game if he has to, and he probably will. Now, Oregon, being a 21-point favorite in this game, I'm incredibly surprised. They got no defense. They may be able to get after Shedeur, but who hasn't been able to get after Shedeur? I think that Colorado shouldn't be overlooked in this game. Will Oregon be able to shut up the Colorado hype train? I wouldn't be too confident about it. If you are a Deion Sanders hater and you're waiting for the moment to finally be able to say, yeah, Deion Sanders and Colorado have finally taken a freaking L. Y'all can shut the hell up about them now. This may not be the week. And that week possibly may not come. At least not until late in the season if they suffer an upset or something like that. Now, I'm not making any predictions, but all I'm saying is that I wouldn't be so confident in saying that Colorado is going to lose this week. Because at this point, you've already been proven wrong about Colorado for about damn near 3 straight weeks. And you're going to continue to allow them to prove you wrong? I mean, I get you doubting Colorado, but to act like they have no chance in this game? Come on, man. Like, even if you're an Oregon fan, you got to be impressed with Shedeur Sanders. Oregon's not a team that has the ability to suffocate teams and blow them out if they have a halfway capable offense. Colorado has an elite offense. They're going to put a lot of points on Oregon. And Oregon's probably going to put a lot of points up on Colorado's defense. Hell, there's a very good chance we could see a combined total of 120-something points combined in this game. We could see both of these teams having 60 points. This game could look like a basketball game. Now, the home field advantage may impact Colorado a little bit. Not Shedeur, but the offensive line, some false starts. Maybe we could get some penalties on the defense because of the crowd noise, encroachment, things like that. But I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be able to ball out in this game. He's been the consistent X factor for Colorado. Every time they get in the bind, he's always stepping up and making big plays. Even without Travis Hunter, I still like Colorado's chances of winning this game. I'm not sleeping on Colorado. I believe. Do you believe? Because if not, maybe you will this weekend if Colorado pulls off the upset. Now, the last thing I want to talk about. This is the year that Notre Dame shows they can compete with the big boys of college football. For so long, we've heard the consistent narrative that Notre Dame can't hang with the best of the best in college football. Well, this season, things may be a little different around here. Ohio State, you know they're only a 3-point favorite in this game. That's a little odd because normally anytime Notre Dame faces a big boy powerhouse in college football, they are a double-digit underdog or at least a touchdown underdog. But the fact that Ohio State is only a 3-point favorite, you don't think that tells you something about Notre Dame? JT, what's different about Notre Dame? You know, we hear this same hoopla about the Fighting Irish every single year, and every single year it turns out the same. They get steamrolled. Well, they got a quarterback this year, a really good quarterback in Sam Hartman, and Sam Hartman changes everything. And I think that this is the first time that Notre Dame has went into a big game against a big-time opponent where they've actually had the advantage at quarterback. Kyle McCord, can he be trusted? He struggled against Indiana, and he hasn't played a Power 5 opponent since. Now, he's looked good against Western Kentucky and whoever else, Youngstown State, but how is he going to look against this Notre Dame defense, this Marcus Freeman coach defense? You know, there's a lot that Kyle McCord has to prove in this game. And Ohio State, I don't think offensively they are the juggernaut that they have been in the past. You see, we know they got great receivers. Notre Dame isn't going to be able to slow down Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka. Okay, we get it. We get it. No matter how good Notre Dame secondary is, they're not going to be able to stop Marvin Harrison Jr. He's a monster, okay? All right? He may be the greatest wide receiver to ever play college football from a talent standpoint. All right? But Ohio State's offensive line is not that great. And I think Notre Dame has one of the better defensive lines in all of college football. And when you look at Notre Dame's offensive line going against that Ohio State front, ooh, that's going to be a battle to watch. Ohio State, their defensive line is really good, but Notre Dame has a top 3, top 5 offensive line in the nation. And for Ohio State, if you're a Buckeyes fan and you think you're going to come into this game, you're going to walk into South Bend and you're just about to annihilate Notre Dame this year, I think you're going to be in for a pleasant surprise, because I think Notre Dame is going to give Ohio State a dogfight. I don't think Ohio State is the dominant team that we've seen out of them in the last couple of years. You know, Ryan Day, I think there's a lot of pressure on him, especially if he doesn't win this game against Notre Dame. And I think Notre Dame probably wins this game. Keeping it a bean with you, keeping it 100. I really don't trust Kyle McCord. I really don't. And Notre Dame has a really good defense. I trust Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman is an experienced quarterback. He's a veteran, and Notre Dame is playing at home. And if you guys have been watching college football for the last couple of years, where do most upsets occur? Where the team is an underdog at home and the team that's a favorite is on the road. LSU and Tennessee beat Alabama last year. Both of those wins came at home. Alabama was on the road. When you're on the road, you're at a major disadvantage, even if you are the better team. And I just think that this is the year that Notre Dame just, they make a statement in the college football. You know, they've always had talented rosters. The thing is that they never really had a capable quarterback. And even last year when Ohio State beat Notre Dame, it's not like Ohio State just clobbered Notre Dame. It's not like they were just smacking them around, punching them in the face. Like, Notre Dame was keeping up with Ohio State, at least defensively. The problem was that they had no damn quarterback. You saw what the hell Tyler Buckner did for Alabama against USF? That fool went 5 of 14 and got benched. Come on, man. Drew Pine, he got beat out by a true freshman at Arizona State. That's what Notre Dame was working with at QB last year. They got Sam Hartman. Like, if you're a Buckeyes fan and you think that you're about to waltz on in here and face the same Notre Dame team that you've seen come up short time after time and get embarrassed by big school after big school, you're in for a really big surprise at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time this Saturday, because the Fighting Irish, they got a lot of luck on their side this year. And I think that they're going to be able to get the upset. I really do. This Notre Dame team, they got Sam Hartman. They got some solid receivers. They got a really good running back in Austin Estime. I mean, I think that Ohio State, they in some trouble. Because anytime Ohio State plays a team that's physical outside of Georgia, they kind of struggle. I remember when people thought that Ohio State was going to roll over Oregon. Yeah, Mario Cristobal. You remember how that went. Oregon dominated Ohio State all throughout that game up front. So let's not make it seem like Ohio State is just this superior team and they're just going to waltz on over and they're going to pull their pants down and take a crap on the middle of Notre Dame's logo, because that's not going to happen. I think that Notre Dame is going to give Ohio State a dogfight. All right. Now, even if I'm wrong and Notre Dame doesn't win and they lose, I think that this is going to be a very close game that comes down to the last possession. I would be incredibly surprised if Notre Dame gets blown out in this game. And I know that every single year it seems to feel like we're overhyping Notre Dame, and we say that every Notre Dame team is one of the best Notre Dame teams since such and such year, but this truthfully is the best team that they've had in a while. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. All right, Sam Hartman is the best quarterback that Notre Dame has had throwing the football since Brady Quinn, and that's been some time. Like, when you got a good quarterback with a great offensive line, a serviceable group of wide receivers, a good running back, and a great defense, I don't get how Notre Dame doesn't compete in this game unless Sam Hartman isn't the guy that we think he is. If Sam Hartman isn't as good as a quarterback that we thought, then Ohio State probably does roll in this game. But I think that Ohio State, they got way more weaknesses than what a lot of people are giving them credit for. You see, people just think that because it's Ohio State and Notre Dame that Ohio State is just better than Notre Dame at every position. No, the hell they are not. And anybody who tells you otherwise, they need to go and do a little bit more homework, because Ohio State defensively, they still got a lot to prove. Jim Knowles is in his second season as defensive coordinator up there. This is a big game for him. Kyle McCord, I'm not sold on him. Y'all sold on him because he was dominating against Youngstown State and Western Kentucky? Like, bro, he struggled against Indiana. I'm not sold on him. And against this defense, I think there's a chance that maybe he gets exposed. But who knows? But all I know is that 7:30 p.m. Eastern time in South Bend, there's going to be a dogfight going on in that stadium for 4 quarters for 60 minutes. And I expect the Fighting Irish to come on top. This is it for this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I might go live again later tonight. I really want to do an all college football show. I really want to preview the games, but we'll see if I can find some time to finish with my homework and get done what I need to get done. If I can go live, it'll probably be around 10:30 or 11 if I do, but there's a lot of great games to watch this week in college football, man. Going to try to preview a couple, if not tonight, probably on tomorrow's show, but I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Once again, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed today's episode. Please, please, please give us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. You can find every episode of the podcast available on all podcasting platforms, wherever you get your podcasts from. All you got to do is type in the JT Sports Podcast or go down the description down below. Type in JT Sports Podcast and it will pop up. Take care, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.